Now to the latest developments on President Trump's promise to fast-track deportations of illegal immigrants in the U.S. Tonight, the Senate passing a bill that would require federal authorities to detain migrants accused of theft and violent crimes. Meanwhile, migrants in our area are still bracing for possible raids. Let's get the latest from Fox 5's Jessica Formoso, who's live outside the Roosevelt Hotel tonight in Midtown. Jess.
Steve and Natasha, that's right. This would be President Trump's first law to sign. The bill passed late this afternoon, like you said, with some Democrats in favor. Now, the Laken Riley Act, which was named after the Georgia nursing student who was murdered last year by a Venezuelan undocumented man, passed the House 263 to 156 votes, with 46 Democrats crossing party lines to support it. The bill requires ICE to detain undocumented immigrants who have been accused of theft and violent crimes. Now the president has to sign it into law, which we expect him to do so. Also today, the American Civil Liberties Union suing to overturn Trump's fast-track deportations, which would allow ICE agents to deport people without a hearing before an immigration judge. The New York Civil Liberties Union saying it's illegal to deport people without due process. Meanwhile, the Trump administration issuing new guidance allowing ICE agents to go into sensitive locations like churches and schools. The Pentagon deploying as many as 1,500 active duty troops to help secure the southern border. They're expected to help with logistics, transportation, and construction of barriers.
This is an effort to grease the wheels of the deportation machine at the expense of the fundamental principle of due process. People who are arrested by ICE would not even have the chance to go to court to plead their case, which is a fundamental principle of due process, unless they can prove that they've been here for at least 2 years.
So if you're in the country illegally, ICE can visit you. But right now, as we said repeatedly, and the President Trump's been clear, we're concentrating on the worst first, the public safety threats and national security threats. And just yesterday, in the last 24 hours, ICE arrested over 308 serious criminals.
And here in our city, the NYPD preparing should federal raids start. The police commissioner sending a memo to her officers stating laws are in place which prevent local police from assisting federal authorities like ICE agents. The memo states the fact that a person is present in the U.S. without lawful authorization is a civil matter, not a crime. And also today, President Trump suspending America's refugee resettlement program. That means those refugees who were cleared to come into the United States, their plans have now been canceled. That's the latest we have from outside the Roosevelt Hotel. I'm Jessica Formoso, Fox 5 News. Steve, Natasha.
All right, thanks, Jessica. Well, fresh fallout tonight from President Trump's blanket pardons of January 6th rioters.
This comes as officers injured on that day met with congressional Democrats, while the founder of the Oath Keepers, who was pardoned and released from prison, made an appearance on Capitol Hill. Fox 5's Sharon Crowley's here with more on that. Sharon?
Yeah, that's right, Natasha and Steve. Backlash continuing against President Trump's decision to have sweeping pardons for the January 6th rioters. Now, tonight, President Trump defended his decision during an interview on the Fox News channel with Sean Hannity.
I said I was going to release him, and probably very quickly. And they voted for me, and I won in a landslide.
Well, President Trump granted full pardons to nearly 1,600 Capitol riot defendants. That includes 200 people who pleaded guilty to assaulting police officers. Some officers injured on January 6, joining Democratic lawmakers to condemn the president.
I was beaten, crushed, kicked, punched, surrounded. Someone reached underneath my visor, tried to gouge out my eye. And all these people were just pardoned by Donald Trump, who says that they were the real victims, that they were the patriots. I don't understand how anyone can believe that.
This decision was as much about himself and rewriting history for himself as it is about the criminals that he let free.
Well, an extremist group leader who orchestrated the insurrection 4 years ago defended his role in the attack. Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes visiting Capitol Hill after he was released from prison. Rhodes was found guilty of orchestrating the plot to storm the Capitol to try to keep Trump in power. He did not enter the building, though, that day.
I wasn't in command of the entire crowd. It's like 100,000 people. I was in command of my guys. My guys screwed up. If I'd have been with them, I'd have said, don't go inside the Capitol.
Well, also on Capitol Hill today, Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson announcing a new select subcommittee aimed at looking into the January 6th Capitol riot. He says he wants to know more about how it was probed at the time by House lawmakers. The speaker also says he won't be second-guessing President Trump's pardons.
It was a terrible time and a terrible chapter in America's history. The president's made his decision. I don't second guess those. And yes, you know, it's kind of my ethos, my worldview. We believe in redemption. We believe in second chances. If you would argue that those people didn't pay a heavy penalty, having been incarcerated and all of that, that's up to you. But the president's made a decision. We move forward.
And President Trump is standing by, as you heard, his J6 pardons as recently as Tuesday, addressing it at a news conference, arguing that those arrested had served time already. He also said that some had been unfairly treated by the Justice Department. Steve.
Sharon, all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI offices are now closed and DEI employees put on paid leave. That's due to just one of many executive orders signed by the president. It directs the end of any federal programs relating to DEI. All related web pages have also been taken down. Democrats objecting to President Trump's DEI directive.
It's incredibly alarming. We as a country strive to create a more equitable space for everyone.
That executive action rolls back an order dating back to Lyndon Johnson's presidency and also ends grants given to DEI federal contractors.
Well, Elon Musk doesn't believe President Trump's massive AI infrastructure project will actually take place. Yesterday, the president announced tech giants OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank have agreed to make a startup investment of $100 billion for what's being called the Stargate project. They'll eventually pour in up to $500 billion in the coming years. Musk claimed on X that three don't have enough money to back the venture.
The first confirmation hearing for Health and Human Services nominee Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is set for next week. He'll appear before the Senate Finance Committee next Wednesday, which will decide whether his nomination goes on to the full Senate. Kennedy, one of the more controversial cabinet picks by President Trump. Democrats have criticized Kennedy for his anti-vaccine beliefs, while some Republicans have expressed concerns about his stance on abortion access. Well, countdown to the strike deadline.
What's being done to make sure negotiations don't get derailed between NJ Transit and the Locomotive Engineers Union?
Immigrant vendors making their voices heard in Corona, Queens tonight.
That's where Mayor Eric Adams was, taking questions from people in that neighborhood. Fox 8's Linda Schmidt has the latest.
Just when you thought the transit issues were behind us, comes word NJ Transit conductors are prepared to strike if they don't see a substantial pay raise. The news hitting a few weeks after congestion pricing, Port Authority, and Turnpike toll hikes took effect, and a few months after NJ Transit raised its own rates 15%.
All we want as engineers is equal pay for equal work.
According to the BLET union, New Jersey transit engineers are paid in some cases significantly less than engineers with LIRR, Metro North, and even PATH. They're asking for a 14% pay hike.
Even with a 14% increase, we don't completely close the gap with every other railroad. We won't be caught up.
For the agency, 14% is too high. They believe 4% is reasonable. Chris Calori is the agency's new head. He's been on the job less than a week.
Just to give you a perspective, 14 out of the 15 unions have already agreed to a 3% increase. We have now gone to a 4%, which the Presidential Emergency Board has said is reasonable.
And if that doesn't happen, the union says they'll walk.
That is the only tool we have in our toolbox to really bring this issue to the forefront and to make it clear that this issue needs to be solved now.
As long as it gets home safely, it is what it is.
I don't want to be paying more for my ticket when the service isn't even great.
As for his part, Calori says he is committed to working out a deal.
I'm new to this job, but I'm willing to meet Thomas Haas, the head of the union, anytime, any day, 24 hours a day, till we get to a negotiation that is fair for both parties.
Both sides have until March 20th to hammer out a deal. At Secaucus Junction, Teresa Priolo, Fox 5 News.
All right, and that was Teresa Priolo on NJ Transit negotiations. Well, with more frigid temps in the forecast, FDNY reminding everyone how to stay safe. Commissioner Tucker held a news conference earlier today sharing winter safety tips, including proper use of space heaters, which he says sparked a house fire last Friday on Staten Island.
We do not want you to plug your space heater into an extension cord that then goes into an outlet on the wall. That is the cause of the fire in Staten Island, and we have seen time and time again that causing fires.
The commissioner also stressed that an oven should never be used to heat a home because of the extreme fire danger they pose.
One student was killed and another wounded after a 17-year-old gunman opened fire inside a high school cafeteria in Nashville, Tennessee. Police say the shooter, who was also a student at the school, later shot and killed himself with a handgun. They're trying to determine whether he was specifically targeting certain students. They say he confronted a 16-year-old girl before fatally shooting her. A male student was grazed by a bullet. A senior who witnessed the violence unfold described the terrifying scene.
It was a lot of screaming, a lot of terrors. People were screaming on their faces. They were scared to die, and they was running, like not no regular run. It was like someone was chasing them, he was a monster.
Today's shooting comes nearly 2 years after 6 people, including 3 children, were shot and killed at a private elementary school in Nashville. And opening arguments were held today in the trial of 3 suspects accused of murder in a series of nightclub overdoses in the LGBTQ community. Police say the 2 victims were at gay bars in Manhattan in 2021 and 2022 when the suspects targeted them. According to authorities, the 2 men were drugged to death and then money was taken from their bank accounts. Police say their credit cards and other documents were also stolen.
Immigrant vendors making their voices heard tonight in Corona, Queens.
That's where Mayor Eric Adams was, taking questions from people in the neighborhood. Fox 5's Linda Schmidt has the latest.
Well, the mayor has recently been taking heat from some for what they call cozying up to President Trump. The immigration issue on the minds of some at this community talking session. Immigrant vendors chanting outside IS-61, where Mayor Adams held another community conversation in Corona, Queens. The mayor has cracked down on vendors on Roosevelt Avenue. Cleo Tilde, a mother of 3, says she has had her vending business for 15 years.
Stop harassing street vendors. Stop attacking our community here in Queens.
Inside, a man standing with a sign saying resign is what greeted Mayor Adams as he started addressing a small group of community members.
Just take your seat. You can keep your sign up, but just take a seat. Thank you.
Mayor Adams then having some fun with it, standing next to the man.
Somebody got a camera? I want to put all this in my book. I want to capture all that I went through as the mayor.
The biggest concern from community members was garbage collection. But this woman, a school parent coordinator, is concerned about President Trump now allowing ICE and Homeland Security to go into schools, churches, and daycares to arrest migrant criminals.
I cannot tell you how many parents have come to me today to inquire what can they do. They're scared. The kids are scared. Kids don't want to come to school. Kids are scared to leave home.
We're going to continue to stand up for all New Yorkers, documented and undocumented. We're going to stand up for New Yorkers, and we're saying to New Yorkers, those parents, and please tell those parents they should have their children go to school. We don't want children staying home. We don't want people who have medical emergencies not to go to the hospital. We don't want people who are victims of crimes not to call the police department.
Mayor Adams has repeatedly said the NYPD will only assist ICE with criminals. In Corona, Queens, Linda Schmidt, Fox 5 News.
Well, there's a new head coach in town.
Gang Green choosing a familiar face to be its new head coach, hoping it'll reverse the team's fortunes.
And Coyote come back. What could be behind even more sightings of late in Central Park? The Jets have turned to their past in hiring their new head coach, naming former Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. This will be his first head coaching job. Glenn, a familiar face to Jets fans. He was an all-pro cornerback with Gang Green for 8 years and was a key member of the team that went to the AFC Championship game in 1998, his former head coach. Hall of Famer Bill Parcells called it a great hire. Well, they're back.